Warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. Today we have the topic of fever, artificial fever, natural fever. Why the body produces a fever at all and what is the purpose of it? And what if we made an artificial fever to serve a purpose? That will be the basis of discussion for the next 25 minutes. Please stay tuned. So today I invited a guest who is a healthcare analyst. So welcome once more, dear Peer Zebergs. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. I'd like to begin with the most natural thing, which we've known from childhood. These fever attacks every now and then, 38, 39, 40 degrees Celsius, not uncommon as a toddler. What does this trigger in the body? I'll say, you just have to look at it that way, that the body is an absolutely ingenious, complex system. It can control everything. There's actually nothing that the body can't handle itself, if the body is in a good position for it. This is called self-regulation or self-healing processes. And they also say, I like this sentence, I really love it, every disease is a sensible, special biological measure in the early stages. And here we get to the fever. Now, I've got an infection, or a child gets an infection, or any fungus or bacteria or virus attack. What does the body do? As a whole body mechanism, it increases the temperature in all cells, so to speak. You have to imagine what kind of energy this takes. And what's the point then, when I reach 40, 41 degrees in the cells? All these infectious substances are killed off. Fungi, viruses, bacteria, pathogenic germs, this is absolutely ingenious. The body has that under control. They're killed by the fever because of the heat. For example, if you just have an inflammation somewhere and there's a big red spot, this red spot is an inflammation. Are there elevated temperatures there too? It could well be. It's just a repair measure. There are various repairs in the body when something happens. Diarrhea is nothing else. Diarrhea, I have to, let's say, get rid of toxins. But now I have to eliminate the real cause, otherwise it'll continue, then it will be harmful in the long run. I always learned when I had a fever, the body mobilizes free radicals, an army of fighters, who then go to the wounded area, to the place of the event, the problem, and begin to heal there. Pretty much everything works together, let's say. When the body is in good shape, it has a special mechanism. Most people don't know that the body can produce H2O to itself. H2O is clear, H2O is water. H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide. Wait, that's too fast for me. That's water with an extra O. Yes, exactly. And I mean, what does hydrogen peroxide look like? Is that also liquid? That's liquid. And the body uses hydrogen peroxide to heal wounds. Now, I still haven't understood what hydrogen peroxide is. I have H2O with an extra O, but how do I get the O in? H2O2, that's what the body makes on whatever mechanisms it can make that. It needs hexagonal water for this. Then it's easier, then it creates it. And H2O2 kills viruses, bacteria and germs, for example. And today, it's known. Why? Because it's an O? It's just very reactive and it just kills viruses and bacteria. It's just a fact. And today, we even know when the body produces H2O2 somewhere, it is the signal for the immune system to send out the chemical warriors to basically help there. H2O2 is a signal trigger for the immune system. We know that today. In the past we assumed a different situation. Or, for example, I also have the mitochondria as antibodies, which are our energy centers. They also produce free radicals during the production of our fuel, of ATP. They do that in addition. And the second function of the mitochondria is not just energy supply, but also apoptosis. So basically, all the organelles, all the cells, so to speak, have to be eliminated, have to be defeated so that they cannot cause any damage. These free radicals are also available there. When the mitochondria have more free radicals, the free radicals destroy the other molecules by snatching electrons from them. They're very aggressive, so there's a multifunctional mechanism to ward off disease and so on. But the body knows exactly what to do. So a fever is always the first attack. It's the first attack for, let's say, infections, where a lot is already being killed naturally. naturally. And then there are all these chemical properties, fighters and so on. And I felt like that. In the healthcare industry, antipyretic agents are used far too quickly. But that's a tricky story. But first of all, when you know that it is a sensible biological special measure of the body, and the body's ingenious, it's developed over centuries or thousands of years, it knows what it's doing. You're right. That was really an interesting keyword now. We all used to have our fever days, but today, when I think back, I mean, not me, but neither my children. Well, and antibiotics are often used, right? Antipyretic measures. I still remember liquid things that I put in the hot bathtub, and then I was really free of fever for 10 hours, yeah? Or they even took baths to artificially raise the fever. So the last measure when you have seriously ill cancer patients is to overheat your whole body. They almost collapse, but let me tell you, that is also a measure that basically kills pathogenic germs and so on, viruses and such in the cells. So you already use it there, but that's an extreme measure, so to speak. So not bad. Fever is a good thing and a beneficial response from a body to something that it wants to get rid of. And if we were to react with antibiotics, then this healing process can't take place, right? Exactly. It's being suppressed. Antibiotics, I'm not a big fan of it because it's the last weapon I have. And people already have, against many antibiotics, let's say, how do you say that? Immunity to it. The bacteria are already resistant to these antibiotics. This has been found with penicillin, for example. So the more you gave, the worse it worked. And then the bacteria can mutate, which is basically the same with viruses. So the more you come with large tools, the worse you can fight them. You should use the tools only when you really need them. And let's say, where did the name antibiotics come from? It comes from the Greek. Anti is clear, and bios means life. Now, I have to look, what do antibiotics fight against? Against all bacteria. Okay, bacteria, let's say I have good bacteria. Then I have the really, really bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria. I also have the very, very good bacteria that are almost essential for my survival in the intestinal flora. And I'm killing those good bacteria too. They say after a course of antibiotics, it takes about 2 years to restore the intestinal flora. That's actually madness. But now there's something else. Our energy centers are basically also seen as bacteria, at least. They are similar to bacteria, but science today says quite clearly it's bacteria. You mean the mitochondria? They're also being fought. You mean the mitochondria? Mitochondria, exactly. These are also bacteria, so to speak. So antibios really deserve to be called against life. That's the way it is. And as I said, it can be the last weapon, then it surely is fantastic. But I know so many women also in the cell energy center who have not even a severe cystitis. They'll get antibiotics. I could also use colloidal silver. Colloidal silver has been a natural remedy since forever, has always been known. And science knows today. Colloidal silver, you can take basically a teaspoon of it, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. It has no side effects, actually, and kills or neutralizes. With viruses, one says neutralizes, doesn't kill. They're not living beings, one says neutralizes, and kills 600 pathogens of any type in a few minutes. Whether it's fungi, spores, bacteria, viruses. It kills everything. And a similarly fantastic substance is hydrogen peroxide, which the body produces itself. Colloidal silver would certainly be worth as a separate topic for another episode from a purely naturopathic point of view. But what I've also seen before, a child had a fever, and then mother made some vinegar sock wraps to lower the fever. But do such measures to lower the fever make sense from a natural point of view? No, I don't think so. If it doesn't get extremely high, then I am in danger of collapsing completely. Fever is something that the body has developed over hundreds of thousands of years, this mechanism to kill infections and so on. And in my opinion, interventions are made far too quickly. You used to be in bed for a few days and sweat it out, or maybe you did a steam inhalation to build up the heat even more, or took baths in order to add more heat, which was actually more supporting. That's my experience. People all got well afterwards. But if I suppress something now, don't let the body do its job, then I have a leftover somewhere, and I have side effects that may affect me in the long run and cause a lot more problems than the actual infection. That's my opinion. What's on my mind right now? What I've observed is when small children or adolescents, well, children mainly, get a vaccination, that afterwards they'll have real attacks of fever. Is this the body's reaction to a foreign substance? To now get rid of this host, this vaccine? For sure, the substances that are distributed with vaccinations don't belong in the body. And I keep hearing that, but I can't confirm that myself. I don't know that aluminium is still used as a reinforcing agent for antibodies. Yeah, and mercury too. That there is still mercury in there, among other things. And aluminium, mercury are devastating poisons. And then there's another discussion. Someone in Germany got a verdict at the Federal Court of Justice that could prove that it has not even been proven that the measles virus exists at all. Well, I'm a bit skeptical in that area, and you just hear a lot that basically people who are vaccinated then actually get this disease. And why? Well, basically the immune system builds up opposing bodies. You basically get something that could trigger these diseases. Maybe minimal dosage, but if I have a weak immune system now, or I have an Epstein-Barr virus somewhere, hidden in some organ, and it only comes into play when I have a weak immune system, and unfortunately many people today have a weak immune system, then maybe I'll get more of a problem. I have friends who run daycare centres in Germany, and you just notice that the children there are always sick. So they're always sick. I don't even know how that can be. When we were in kindergarten or school in elementary school 50 years ago, we had the flu for a week, maximum, or maybe chickenpox, but otherwise we were never sick. And I believe that hygiene is exaggerated on the one hand and the demands placed on children on the other. When children are stressed, they have a lot of adrenaline in their blood. What does that mean? The immune system is deactivated all day long, and then they have electric smog all the time. Every second child already has an iPhone with them and is exposed to electric smog. And electric smog means for the body, from the point of view of perception, a signal foreign to the body that's stronger than your own electromagnetic signals that could potentially be dangerous. Then the head, the brain has to switch and change biochemical mixtures. That means I need stress hormones now, and adrenaline, noradrenaline, and so on, basically to possibly escape. Although there's no risk of escape, then the body is in what we call stress response mode, and then releases stress hormones, and then it pours out adrenaline. What does that mean? Adrenaline switches off the immune system. Because when I'm in a dangerous situation, the immune system is not important at all. Exactly. It's a matter of life and death, so it is secondary, and that's why you inject adrenaline during organ transplants, to deactivate the immune system in such a way that rejection cannot take place through the immune system. And I believe that many children are in this mode. That's why they're permanently ill. And when it comes to vaccinations, there's always one thing I don't like. There are some parents who say, you have to have it, otherwise you endanger my child. Or they say the child can't come to school at all. Then I say, okay. But if your child is vaccinated and the vaccination is good, it's protected, so my child cannot be a danger there. Yes, I don't understand that either. Well, I can't quite keep up with that. How an unvaccinated child could infect a vaccinated one is still a mystery to me today, but that's another topic. But you really made some wonderful points. When the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation engine's running, then people are really susceptible. I also see that with metabolism measurements in general, that you're really not in the process of burning fat, but always in the sugar burning process, because in this stress mode, glucose is just released endlessly. Okay, but we have the topic of fever, and the artificial fever we have now heard is a blessing if it exceeds a certain level. Natural measures are okay, of course, but not necessarily with an antibiotic, unless the doctor sees it differently. If absolutely necessary, it's an excellent measure, but it has to be the final drop anchor, in my opinion. And now we also know from the most modern research, from the scientific side in the field of cancer therapies, you do that today by putting people to bed. I think it's called hyperthermia. Exactly. Good. People are being put in bed, the fever, the body temperature is raised to 41.6 degrees from head to toe. Very delicate thing, and then exactly that happens, that the body attacks these cancer cells. And possibly dissolves them too, right? Kills them, yeah. Kills them, yeah. I've heard that the results aren't bad at all. No, it surely makes sense. Good, and if we now have these two extremes between doing nothing and doing a lot, then you can actually ask yourself to what extent you can apply it periodically, a punctual, local fever at the scene where it hurts. Let's say we have a viewer who might have a painful elbow or shoulder. Can I now also create an artificial fever here to get the exact same effect? Definitely. We also have technology for that. But before I get to that, there's one point I want to briefly address. We've known about the fever for a very, very long time, how healthy it actually is. And Hippocrates, he is probably one of the most famous doctors of antiquity, once said, a sick person who cannot be cured by heat has an incurable disease. And another ancient doctor once said, give me the power to create artificial fever, I will cure any disease. So there we already have two statements that are correct statements. And now we have a technology, but it's already a 100-years-old discovery, that has only been developed further so that the negative side effects have been eliminated. It now only has a positive effect, no negative side effects. This is an antenna that goes back to the basic invention of Nikola Tesla, where I can effectively generate a local fever, and only in the weakest point, with no side effects for surrounding cells or organs. And that's here. This antenna, it's a cell tuner. I, of course, also work with it in the Cell Energy Center. And there I can transfer energy. You can see it here very well. And wirelessly. And we've done this before. Just touch the green antenna with your whole hand. So there's nothing left for the fluorescent tube. So the body absorbs this energy because it knows this energy, because that is the energy that is the right energy for all cells. The cells need a high electrical cell membrane voltage of minus 70 millivolts, and we make this energy available to the cell. What happens now if basically... So if I held this long enough now, would it get hot in this spot? Then it'll only get hot when repair mechanisms are running there. If everything's fine, so to speak, this electrical energy reinforces the cell membrane voltage. Then everything's perfectly in order. Then you won't feel any heat. But if you now have cells that have a very low cell membrane electrical voltage, so where my pain would be, or where there are pathogenic germs, where there are fungi, parasites, viruses, or something like that, then the following will happen. Then, this oscillation will, let's say, by the way this signal works, the weaker, the sick, the inflamed, the damaged cell, because they have a lower electrical resistance. Yeah, electricity takes the path of least resistance, just like water, basically. And a healthy cell has an electrical cell membrane voltage of minus 70 millivolts, and a sick cell has minus 50 millivolts, and inflamed cells, let's say, minus 35, minus 40. And one aspect is still important. A tumour cell never has more than minus 15. Even a cancer cell never has more than minus 15, and they can no longer do their job. It also affects the metabolism and so on. It just needs more energy. An example of how so much energy can protect against the worst diseases like cancer is the heart. The heart is an electrical organ and always has a high electrical cell membrane voltage. If the cell membrane tension would go down, it would stop beating. It doesn't, but the high electrical cell membrane voltage protects it from such diseases as cancer. That's why there's no such thing as heart cancer. And the same applies to nerve cells, which are also electrical organs. There's a lot of electricity running through them. They're semiconductors. That's why they always have a high electrical cell membrane voltage. That's why there's no cancer in the nerve cell itself. Would that actually mean, conversely, that if in all mitochondria the cell membrane tension is high enough, actually, illness isn't possible? So to speak, a young, healthy cell is defined that it has an electrical cell membrane voltage of minus 70 millivolts. And what happens if I come with a signal? As I said, it finds the weakest cell, then it activates the mitochondria. So our energy centers inside so strongly that inside the cell, if there's a weak point, heat is generated. And then nothing else is done than imitating nature. through artificial fever, but only locally, only where I need it. I do not stress any other organs or tissue units, but only where it's really needed. And that's quite a highlight. It reminds me a bit of something. What I do once or twice a week. I lie in a hot bathtub for an hour. But really so hot that after an hour my heart is pounding. But somehow I need that. It's really good for me. It's a fantastic detox too. It's always a thing that you have to do at the same time, detoxifying. And there's a second aspect, what the cell tuner basically does. It makes the body fluids hexagonal. I can't say that often enough. Pure, energetically processed, structured water that is hexagonal is the most important basis of life for every person, for every living being, including plants. Indeed, the peculiarity of this hexagonal structure is that it has more electrons, that it can donate electrons. There are free electron plasmas that neutralize free radicals. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that basically, in these hexagonal layers, there are millions of honeycomb layers on top of each other. So there can be no molecule, no toxin, no foreign substance, no acidic molecule. They're pushed to the side and then they can be easily removed via the lymphatic system. So I have a detoxifying, purifying effect. I have an antioxidant effect. Because I have a detoxifying effect, also an anti-inflammatory effect. In my opinion, the combination is unbeatable. Hexagonal structure. This can also be done via this rod. Exactly, it's generated through this irradiation. Drinking water or my body water. Drinking water, but I can also do it with liquid food, or I can, for example, vegetables. Good vegetables or good new fruits have hexagonal amniotic fluid. You have to know that. But if I have bad ones, I can even make them hexagonal. But the most important food is simply drinking water. And I have to have the best, because 99% of all molecules in the body are water molecules. So where do I have to address something when I say, I want to have the optimal situation for my body, that everything works there? It's the water. So actually drinking a lot of water and irradiating your body, but the right one, it's of no use to me if I drink bad water. On the contrary, I might just put too much strain on my kidneys because it just runs through and then I have to go to the toilet. This other water, which is also very saturated, which is macroclustered, there are 20, 25 water molecules together. That doesn't even get into the cells. There are very small openings in the cells called aquaporons, and maybe 6 or 8 water molecules can enter there. And hexagonal water can be split up in such a way that it's always available to the cells and always comes into the cells, and then the intracellular water is also much better. This means that the cell does not have to split or actually divide as often it normally has to, because the environment is simply good. Thank you very much, dear Peer. One final question. If, as a viewer, I now need more information and would like to find or read about this artificial fever, do you have a platform somewhere where you can get information? You can find everything on quintisana.ch, and I'll be available for any deeper, more detailed questions. And very happy to help. The topic of this fever is really exciting. Thank you very much. It really was great. Dear viewers, I hope that we were able to sensitize you a little bit. That fever is not a bad thing. On the contrary, fever is a good thing. Be it in the whole body, so that the body can really get well again. A virus can be killed. And that you really should be a bit cautious about antibiotics, because we've now heard that they are anti-life, directed against life, and kills also many, many good bacteria in our body, in our intestines. And that it takes up to 2 years until this intestinal environment, this microbiome, is back where it was before. And of course, in my opinion, that's a bit horrific to hear. And I think it's great that you can create local fever in the body where it's needed, as we have seen today. It was a great idea by Tesla. Amazing that it took so long before it was finally released, stuff like that. Well, again, 100 years ago, it was so well known that in Germany alone there were various manufacturers, and over 500,000 high-frequency devices existed until they were banned in 1938. It was already recognized, it was completely widespread, and it was taken off the market. And do you know why? One suspects that it would have been pharmaceutical companies, but I don't know. 1938 was a stormy time, wasn't it? And I'll say a lot happened there and so on. But there is a similar case in the US. Royal Raymond Rife had developed a similar technology which has achieved phenomenal results in the health sector. And that was also taken off the market at about the same time. Okay, so thank you very much again. With pleasure. All the best to you. Stay healthy, stay happy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.